One major development going on now involves more to do with Dominique Thorne going off at the fans yet again in the midst of the Ironheart ratings disaster. Now, Thorne delivered the following in a desperate play to salvage the series. I think Marvel fans, she says, just need to take a step back and to stop focusing on our support for both diversity and LGBTQ and claiming that as some form of a hidden message.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark gets like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through and he's like, who is that? And she's like, I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark. And he's like,
well, this is exactly what's been going on now, to the point where Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are getting involved in a lot of drama with RDJ, Robert Downey Jr.
Marvel's latest Disney Plus series, Ironheart, has landed with a thud, and not because it's groundbreaking or bold, but because it's yet another example of the studio mistaking politics for plot. Let's be honest. Did anyone actually ask for this show? From where I'm sitting, this feels like Marvel dug deep into its dusty archive, found a forgotten 2016 comic that barely sold, slapped a fresh coat of identity politics on it, mentioned Tony Stark a few times for good measure, and tried to market the whole thing as progress. But this isn't progress, it's desperation. It's another case of the studio putting the message ahead of the story.
First Ironheart reactions are in. Does it defy the haters? Or is it another skippable series? It's always about you, right? It's always about the audience. It's amazing. It doesn't matter if it's the 2024 election or whether it's a Disney streaming product. It's always about like how evil is the actual voters? How evil are the audience?
Ironheart isn't just an unnecessary spin-off. It's a symptom of a deeper problem in the MCU. The art of storytelling has been replaced by the science of box checking. And for fans who still care about compelling heroes, real stakes, and narratives with actual soul, this show doesn't feel like representation. It feels like insult. Let's get one thing straight. No one is saying inclusion is the problem. Representation matters, diversity matters, but how you do it is just as important as why you do it. And Ironheart is the perfect example of what happens when identity becomes the entire point.
Going out there from the media that you are just a racist if you don't like Ironheart. The reason it's getting this backlash, the reason it's getting bad reviews, the reason that fans don't like what they see, it's just because all the damn racists out there, Jay.
The show isn't built around character arcs, conflict, or growth. It's built around symbolism. Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri Williams, has spent more time in interviews praising the show's commitment to DEI than discussing the character's journey. She calls it groundbreaking for its diversity, talks about how the show centers LGBTQ characters unapologetically, and celebrates the fact that it's Marvel's most inclusive project ever. Okay, that's fine. But where's the plot? Where's the nuance? Where's the heart? It's not enough to say, this character is marginalized, so they matter. What matters is how you tell their story.
And there's a lot of messaging behind this show, but one thing is for certain about this series is that, all agendas aside, let's be very real about this, there's a lack of character development. The directing, the producing, the writing is just way off, it makes no sense at all, and it's very lackluster. There's no depth to it all.
Instead, Ironheart gives us 3 episodes of moral lectures, identity monologues, and trauma checklists. Like watching a media studies essay come to life. There's 5 minutes of action here and there, recycled Iron Man sequences mostly, just to remind you it's technically a Marvel show. But the emotional core? Nowhere to be found. The series feels less like a narrative and more like a press release, crafted in a boardroom and delivered in a costume. Riri doesn't feel like a character. She feels like a symbol, a marketing bullet point. And Marvel expects the audience to applaud just because she exists.
And why she's frustrated. That's how I feel watching her interviews.
How do you feel about the impact that she's having on young Black girls? And I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should be.
Now let's talk about Riri Williams herself, or at least whatever version of her Marvel tried to sell us. Dominique Thorne compares Riri to Tony Stark, not because she's a genius inventor, not because she's a flawed yet charismatic force of nature, but because, wait for it, she has panic attacks. That's the bar now. If you cry on screen and experience internal struggle, you're the next Iron Man. Gone is the witty arrogance, the earned redemption arc, the heart and soul that made Tony Stark iconic. In his place is a shell of a character built entirely around trauma. No humor, no spark, no genuine growth. Just a checkbox of pain and oppression presented as personality.
They have Dominique Thorne, going out there talking about DEI, LGBTQ rights, and how there's no agenda there, and she continues to do so. But the other thing is that they also had Robert Downey Jr., and they had him roll out and really kind of prop the show up and prop the character of Riri Williams up above Tony Stark.
It's as if Marvel forgot what makes a hero resonate with audiences. Tony Stark struggled, yes, but he also evolved. He changed. He made mistakes and paid for them. He laughed, he failed, he sacrificed. Riri, on the other hand, is written as a monument, not a person. Her identity is her story. That's not depth, that's a shortcut. And what's even worse? The show was delayed multiple times, pushed from 2023 to 2024, then again to 2025. Not because they were polishing a masterpiece, but because they were scrambling, trying to reverse engineer Heart into something that was never built to be a story in the first place.
Ironheart. Now, one significant development going on now involves more to do with Ironheart firings, and now the drama surrounding that worsened for both Marvel and Disney. It turns out that not only did Bob Iger force Kevin Feige to fire the marketing team of Ironheart weeks ago, as we discussed here, but now Bob Iger and the rest of Disney made a direct emergency move to fire more employees at Marvel that exclusively worked on Ironheart.
You can't retrofit authenticity. You can't force meaning after the fact. And you sure as hell can't expect audiences to fall in love with a character who's been assembled out of buzzwords and studio mandates. Riri deserved better. We deserved better. Let's pull back the curtain on what's really happening here. Dominique Thorne has proudly stated multiple times that Ironheart is Marvel's most diversified project ever. She says the show is about celebrating trans rights, embracing drag, spotlighting underrepresented communities, and that DEI should sometimes be the bigger focus than the story itself. Yes, she actually said that, word for word. And look, no one is saying diversity is bad. Inclusion is not the problem. What is a problem is when that becomes the entire point, when your focus is so locked on checking boxes that you forget the basics of storytelling.
It deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this damn show. But after I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that bad.
Conflict, development, stakes, transformation. When a series becomes a platform instead of a narrative. Marvel used to be great at representation without preaching. Think about T'Challa in Black Panther. Think about Sam Wilson's arc in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Those stories were grounded, human, earned. With Ironheart, the message is the product. The show doesn't want to make you feel something. It wants you to applaud the intention regardless of execution. This isn't storytelling. This is branding. This is virtue signaling wrapped in a $200 million budget. It's Marvel looking you in the eye and saying, you should like this because it's important. But importance without impact is just noise. And audiences are done pretending otherwise. And of course, because Marvel doesn't believe new characters can stand on their own, Ironheart has to be forcefully tethered to Iron Man. Again, there's this new character named Joe, who we're told is going to connect back to Tony Stark in a big twist. Why? Because that's the formula now. Marvel can't let go of its past. They keep dragging it back in to prop up weaker projects. It's nostalgia bait, plain and simple. Tony Stark is mentioned constantly in Ironheart, not because it serves the story, but because Marvel neck. People still care about him. He's a safety net. They borrow his name, his iconography, and his legacy to try and transfer that emotional investment to a new, unproven character. It's lazy, it's manipulative, and worst of all, it doesn't work. Instead of letting Riri earn her place, they slap Tony's brand all over her journey and expect fans to accept her as the next Iron Man just because she has a suit and some trauma. But legacy doesn't come from imitation. It comes from storytelling, from impact, from growth. And this show, it skips all that and goes straight to the branding. They're not honoring Tony Stark. They're strip miming his memory and calling it progress. Let's talk about the cast, or more specifically, the characters, because casting alone doesn't make a compelling story. At the heart of Ironheart is Riri Williams, played by Dominique Thorne. Now, Thorne is a talented actress. That's not in question. But the writing gives her nothing to work with. Riri isn't character so much as a bullet point list of struggles. She's smart, she's marginalized, she's oppressed, she's anxious, and that's it. That's her entire identity. Where's the humor? Where's the charm? Where's the arc? Remember Tony Stark. He was arrogant, flawed, funny, reckless, and had to claw his way to heroism. That's what made him human. That's what made him compelling. Riri, on the other hand, is written as if struggle is enough. She has panic attacks, so now she's Iron Man 2.0. That's the bar. And then there's the supporting cast. There's Joe, the mysterious connection to Stark. There are several LGBTQ+ characters who are announced, highlighted, promoted, but never developed. Their identities are their personalities. They exist not to contribute to the story, but to fulfill a quota. It's not that these characters are LGBTQ+ or diverse or non-traditional. That's not the issue. The issue is they're not characters. They're avatars for ideology. They're walking lectures. And when you write people like that, without flaws, without nuance, without complexity, the audience doesn't connect. They disengage. This is not inclusion. This is tokenism in high def. Here's where the wheels really come off, because Ironheart isn't even pretending to tell a story anymore. It's not a superhero series. It's a lecture series in disguise. From the opening episode, you're hit with constant themes of privilege, oppression, marginalization, and trauma. These aren't layered in with nuance or tied into the characters' arcs. No, they're monologued at you, repeatedly, sometimes back to back. Characters don't speak to each other. They deliver think pieces at each other and at you. And if you're watching expecting a hero's journey, an inciting incident, a real sense of stakes or transformation, forget it. Ironheart skips right past the basics of story structure in favor of messaging. It's all agenda, no arc. You can see this shift clearly in interviews. Dominique Thorne proudly described, "The series is Marvel's most inclusive project yet." She says the show celebrates trans rights and connects Riri to those who embrace drag. That's fine in theory, great even, if it's organic to the narrative. But when Thorne herself admits that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, was prioritized above story, then that's not inclusion. That's replacement. That's the point now. And story is secondary. Marvel isn't trying to earn your emotional investment anymore. They're trying to meet a corporate checklist. It's not character-driven, it's brand-driven. And the result? A show that feels more like a TED Talk in a CGI suit than a story you can connect with. No challenge, no tension, no transformation. Just preaching with a budget. Marvel has developed a frustrating habit in recent years, introducing new characters by propping them up on the corpse of someone beloved. And Ironheart is one of the clearest examples of this pattern. Instead of allowing Riri Williams to stand to be her own innovator, her own hero, the series desperately leans on Tony Stark's legacy. Every other scene tries to remind you, hey, remember Iron Man? Remember how much you loved him? Well, this is kind of like that, except it's not. This isn't homage, it's co-opting. They name drop Stark, recycle Iron Man tech, and connect the plot to his past exploits. Not because it makes sense, but because they're terrified that Riri can't carry the show without his ghost propping her up. And in doing so, they not only cheapen her, they diminish him. It's like Marvel doesn't trust their own new creations. So instead of building something fresh, they cannibalize what came before. They tether every new project to nostalgia, then shame the audience for missing the spark that once made the MCU great. Dominique Thorne even brags that the character has panic attacks like Tony, as if that alone earns her Iron Man status. But emotional breakdowns aren't the legacy Tony left behind. Innovation, sacrifice, transformation. That's what made him unforgettable, not trauma for trauma's sake. Instead of forging a new mythos, Ironheart ransacks the old one and calls it progress. But it's not evolution, it's erosion. It's storytelling by imitation, not inspiration. Let's talk about the audience, the people who built the MCU into a cultural juggernaut. Because if Marvel is collapsing, it's not because of trolls or toxic fans. It's because the very people who used to show up day one, the real fans, are checking out. Not in outrage, in exhaustion. Ironheart is just another name on the growing list. She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Secret Invasion, all hyped as the future of the MCU, all quietly abandoned by viewers after an episode or two. Why? Because people don't want to be preached at. They don't want identity checklists. They want stories. People came to the MCU for heroes, for arcs, for wonder. But now, they're served lectures in capes, social commentary in armor, identity politics masquerading as plot. There's no hook, no soul, no stakes, just recycled action and recycled messages. Disney knows this. That's why they dropped 3 episodes of Ironheart in one day. Not as a gift, but as a numbers trick. A desperation play to inflate viewership data before the inevitable drop-off. And the result? Silence, disinterest, apathy, the final stage of audience fatigue. What's wild is how Marvel responds. Not with introspection, not with better writing, but with blame. They accuse fans of being close-minded, not evolved enough, when the truth is simpler. People aren't rejecting diversity. They're rejecting mediocrity dressed as progress. The audience was never the enemy, but Marvel treated them like one, and now they're leaving. Let's set the record straight. The issue has never been representation. No one's turning away because there's a black lead, or a trans character, or a queer subplot. That's a lazy deflection, a shield Marvel hides behind to dodge actual criticism. The real problem? These characters are written as nothing but their identity. That's the core failure of Ironheart. Riri Williams isn't a fully realized person. She's a collection of buzzwords in a vibranium suit. She doesn't grow. She doesn't struggle in a way that feels human. She doesn't earn her place. She's just declared important and expects us to clap. And when Dominique Thorne says that sometimes DEI should be the bigger focus than the story itself, that's not inspiring. That's devastating. Because what she's admitting, whether she realizes it or not, is that storytelling is now optional. Character, theme, plot, they're afterthoughts. The message is the product. That mindset kills storytelling, not because audiences hate inclusion, but because we love connection. We crave characters we can believe in, root for, hurt with, laugh with, not characters built in a boardroom, designed to check boxes and keep Twitter happy for a day. So let's stop pretending the backlash is bigotry. It's burnout, it's disappointment. It's people saying, give me a story worth caring about, not just another identity sermon wrapped in CGI. They forgot that people came for stories, not slogans. They forgot that heroes are meant to inspire us, not lecture us. That representation is supposed to enhance the story, not replace it. That the MCU earned its empire by making us feel something, not by chasing hashtags and headlines. Ironheart isn't just a misstep. It's a case study in what happens when message overtakes meaning, when characters become symbols and stories become sermons. It's not diversity that's dragging Marvel down. It's hollow diversity, identity without depth, inclusion without soul. And fans, we're not outraged, we're exhausted, tired of watching legacy after legacy get rewritten, diluted, or outright replaced under the banner of progress. Progress isn't just swapping costumes, it's writing characters that matter. And that takes more than buzzwords and trauma. Marvel, if you're listening, the audience is still here, but our patience is running thin. We're done giving free passes to lazy scripts hiding behind big words. You want respect? Then respect us with better writing, better heroes, better stories. And if you're watching this and nodding along, if you're just as tired of corporate lectures and capes, of DEI overdevelopment, of story being sacrificed for spectacle, then subscribe. Because here on Hollywood Scoop, we're just getting started. We break it down. We keep it real. We call it like it is. So hit that like button, subscribe for more drama, breakdowns, and brutal honesty, especially as this Ironheart saga unfolds. We've got receipts, and we're not going anywhere. Thanks for watching. Now go tell Marvel. We don't want boxes checked. We want stories told.